Hi there, I'm Martino, and in this video I'm going to relive my adventures in Gothenburg and let you know if it's worth a visit as a footy trip. Let's do this. 9 years after one of my best friends from university had moved to Sweden, I was well overdue a second visit to catch up with Johnny. As he'd moved from Stockholm to Gothenburg, I was looking forward to my first visit to the city. Sweden didn't quite offer the jeopardy and adventure of my last trips, but with a strong football and beer culture and £27 return flights from Manchester, I was excited to get the summer of travel up and running after a 6-month hiatus. The customary Manchester craft lager was consumed before a seamless Ryanair flight. Johnny picked me up from the airport and we headed straight to his local for last orders. A beautiful little pub on the edge of lakeside, which was hosting quite an intriguing event that evening. Starting at 6 p.m, runners would run a 6.7 km circuit around the lake. They would go again at 7, then 8, then 9, 10, 11, you get the gist. The race finishes when only one person remained. Some effort. We applauded the 100 or so runners setting off on their midnight run as we sampled a pint of pivot pills. After a good night's sleep, we returned for a full English breakfast to see the runners still toiling in the heat. The field had dropped down to less than 10. Not bad at all 17 hours in. Still some way short of the record of 41 though. Off we went to town with our bikes aboard the train, and 20 minutes later we were in the heart of Sweden's second biggest city. 2/3 of the size of the capital Stockholm, with a population of around 600,000, and positioned smack bang in the middle of the neighbouring capitals of Oslo and Copenhagen. Settlers have been living here for thousands of years, but the city of Gothenburg was formed in 1621. Over time, due to its coastal location and prime position on the banks of the Göta River, it became a hotbed for fishing. This was eventually replaced by trade and shipping as the main industry in what has become the largest harbour in Scandinavia. In more recent times, the creation of Volvo and other manufacturing companies have created significant employment in the city. Arriving in the centre to stunning sunshine, there were plenty of bars and pubs to choose from, and the people of Gothenburg certainly knew how to make the most of the good weather. A few pints were consumed in the many pubs before cycling off to Gamla Ullevi. The home of the 3 Gothenburg clubs as well as the women's national team was built in 2009. It was built to replace the demolished Gamla Ullevi, translating as Old Ullevi, making differentiating between the two rather comical. Constructed on the same spot, it means that this location in the heart of the city centre has been home to the team since 1916. Literally the next block along is an even more iconic stadium for global fans. The scene of one of the biggest shocks in football history as Denmark triumphed against all odds to beat the unified Germany in the Euro '92 final. Just 3 years later, Jonathan Edwards rolled into town and broke the triple jump world record here, which still stands today some 29 years on. Not so commonly known, but that day also marked by local legends Ace of Base premiering their new single Lucky Love, which went on to reach the dizzy heights of number 20 in the UK charts. Today we had the pleasure of watching Idrottsföreningen Kamraterna Göteborg, or IFK Göteborg for short, but we'll stick with IFK Gothenburg for now. One of the biggest clubs in Sweden, formed in 1904. They were the working-class alternative to local rivals Örgryte, who had dominated the domestic game, winning 9 of the first 12 national championships. IFK ended their 4-year unbeaten run in 1907 and proceeded to win their inaugural title the following year. IFK added occasional titles over the years, including the 1942 championship led by club legend Gunnar Gren. After 8 years at IFK, he went on to start for AC Milan in Italy to form 1/3 of the deadly Swedish front three known as Grenoli, and also made the AC Milan Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, due to being professional, the prolific attacker missed out on many opportunities for the national team, but the relaxed rules allowed him to play in the 1958 Home World Cup. His semi-final goal against West Germany was enough to get him a place in team of the tournament at the ripe old age of 37, but he was unable to get past the likes of Pele and Garincha in the final. He's now honoured with a statue outside the stadium to mark his impact on the club's history. After spending the mid-70s in the second tier, IFK returned to the Allsvenskan in 1977. Ever present since then, they have the longest current run in the top flight. The hiring of the then little-known Sven-Göran Eriksson was set to change the history of IFK. Introducing 4-4-2, known as the Swinglish method, he won Gothenburg's first Swedish Cup in his debut season. But this was just a start for the late iconic legend. By 1982, Sven had them playing great football and ready to take on Valencia in the UEFA Cup quarter-final. Due to financial difficulties, the fan group Änglarna, the Angels, lent the club the money to supplement the cost of the away trip. A 2-2 draw in the Matchday was followed up with a win at home. An extra time penalty saw off Kaiserslautern in the semi before victory in the final over 2 legs versus one of the strongest teams in Europe at the time in Hamburger SV. European silverware was a huge moment for club and country, and still the only Swedish team who can claim this accolade. Gothenburg's domination was well and truly underway. After a couple more league titles, it was time to attack Europe's premier competition. The part-timers battled their way to a semi-final against the might of Barcelona, one of the world's richest clubs. The champions of Spain were led out by El Tel, Terry Venables, and were expecting to stroll to victory against the Swedish cooks and plumbers. In the first leg, the legendary Torbjorn Nielsen scored 2 goals in a shock 3-0 victory. A fortnight later, Gunnar Bengtsson took his men to the new camp where the 3-0 scoreline was reciprocated in front of 120,000 baying Catalans. Eventually, the brave Swedes came unstuck on penalty, but remarkably, another UEFA Cup victory followed the next season as Dundee United were defeated in the final. This era of IFK's history is captured in the film The Last Proletarians of Football, one I can't find anywhere but would love to get my hands on, so feel free to send the DVD my way if you have it. Up until 1996, Gothenburg won 10 out of the 15 league titles. The reason they sit so prominently in my mind is these were my formative years following football, back when the European game was less accessible and more exotic to English fans. The famous Welcome to Hell banners for Manchester United versus Galatasaray live long in the memory of those who witnessed it, but not so strongly remembered is that IFK won their group that year with Barcelona in second place. They eventually fell in the quarterfinals to Bayern Munich, and sadly this was the last of their great European forays. The glory period for IFK was highlighted by having 7 of the stars of the national team in their incredible third-place finish at the 1994 World Cup in USA. Since those glory days, they've struggled to compete, winning 1 league title in 2007 to complement a few runners-up spots. They've had to sit back and watch as Malmö surpassed their record of 18 titles. De Bleu now lead the way with 23 and continue to dominate the modern game in Sweden. This barren period has seen IFK fall from the country's most supported club to third behind arch-rivals AIK Stockholm and the aforementioned Malmö. Back to today, and Gothenburg went into Elfsborg teetering perilously above the danger zone, while Elfsborg made the 65-kilometre journey to the west coast, sitting smack bang in the middle of the table. Over 17,000 people piled into the Gamla Ullevi for this match. The pre-match song was sung with passion across the stadium, and the fans were there in full spirit to support the Blåvitt. Standard of football was half decent, nicely supplemented by great support and some 3.5% beers. It provided for a top atmosphere. Both sides had their periods of pressure, but it was the home team who broke the deadlock as Gustav Norlin tapped home to the delight of the Anglena. The second half was delayed 5 minutes due to smoke from the flares obscuring the view of, well, pretty much everyone in the stadium. No fuss, no drama, and no fireworks announcement on the tannoy, and off we went. The game certainly lacked quality, but the tension kept it an entertaining affair. A nervy last few minutes, but IFK held on for victory. As always, the players came out to thank the fans for their unrelenting support, and with the additional word from retiring veteran Sebastian Eriksson after 297 games for the club, their 4th highest of all time. Thoroughly enjoyable experience all round. The Ultras sung for 90 minutes, jumped up and down and made for a great atmosphere, as did the away fans who constantly drummed away in hope of inspiring a fight back. A real credit to the Swedish game, which is known for its influential fans. Just like Germany, they have a 50+1 fan ownership rule. Despite the Swedish Federation suggesting moving away from this model, the fans stood firm and ensured that Swedish football would retain its history and integrity. It's the highest league in the world that doesn't have VAR, and the viewing experience is all the better for it. Just as the Premier League clubs voted to retain it, long may its absence in Sweden continue. Afterwards, we headed out into the sunshine and found a beautiful outdoor spot to bask in the lovely weather, enjoying ice cream followed by a couple of pints by the river. For the Champions League final, we made our way to an Irish bar, as standard whenever you watch football abroad. We gathered with the Swedes to cheer on Dortmund, but we were all defeated by the inevitable machine that's Real Madrid, as they took their remarkable decimoquinto. A late train back, and no surprise to see there was no longer anyone running around the lake some 32 hours in. The next day was chill time in the garden, followed by a trip to the mini beach on the lake for a relaxing swim before the thunderstorms came. A much needed day of tranquility to reset the body. An experience that is remarkably simple to find in the forests and lakes a mere 20 minutes outside the city. My flight back to Manchester wasn't leaving until 11, so I had the full Monday to enjoy the delights of the city. I decided on a 12-kilometre cycle over to the ferry port to take me across to the island of Brno. Picturesque and tranquil, but literally nothing to do on a Monday, so I just enjoyed the fresh air and admired the perfectly kept gardens and the immaculate housing. Back in the city, there are plenty of things to keep you entertained. Sweden's most popular tourist attraction, the Liseberg amusement park, once voted in the world's top 10. Plenty of museums and the huge Slottsskogen Park, with an open free zoo which hosts huge concerts and festivals every summer. Well known for its Gothia Cup, the second largest youth tournament in the world. Some of the greatest in history have graced the competition. Pirlo, Shearer, Zlatan and even Gordon Jury. Over 1,000 clubs battle it out over a week on over 100 pitches. A great boom for the local economy and its organisers BK Häcken. Gothenburg is also the most sustainable destination in the world and has been since 2016. No idea what this really means, but it sounds pretty good. The spotless streets, large parks, effective public transport and a huge amount of electric cars that I saw can't be doing any harm. Add to that the peaceful nature and friendly people, I saw nothing that made me think anything other than that Gothenburg would be a bloody wonderful place to live.
But how about as a footy trip? As always, I'll rate IFK Gothenburg as a footy trip out of 100 across 10 different categories. First up, team ability. Playing in the 25th best league in Europe and with IFK struggling towards the relegation zone, 4 out of 10. Atmosphere. The Ultras put on a great show, constant singing and jumping for 90 minutes. The rest of the crowd also got stuck in and a very welcoming feel to the place. Add to that some lively away support and a nice flair stoppage at the start of the second half for bonus points, 8 out of 10. Stadium quality. Great size for the team, really nice look to it and top views from every seat, 7 out of 10. Beer and food at the stadium. 3.5% beer you could take to your seat and some decent food for snacks, 8 out of 10. Tourism. A really nice city to stroll or cycle around. Not a crazy amount of sights, but good vibes in general, 6 out of 10. Accessibility. 27 of my finest British pounds is all it took to get me there and back. Absolute bargain. Once there, it ain't so cheap though, 7 out of 10. People. A wonderfully pleasant bunch of people. Very interactive and always so friendly and genuine, 9 out of 10. Stadium surroundings. Brilliant. Right in the heart of the centre, plenty of pubs within a couple of minutes walk. What more could you want? 8 out of 10. History. The second most successful team in Sweden with iconic European success, giving them some kudos outside of their homeland, 7 out of 10. Ease and cost of ticket pricing. Very easy to pick up tickets, especially when your pal sorts it all out. At £33 a piece, not the cheapest, but still felt it was good value, 7 out of 10. In total, 71 out of 100. Overall, a class city to watch football and somewhere I'd certainly recommend visiting for a footy trip. For me, in terms of personal accomplishments on this trip, Sweden was the 24th country in which I've watched a footy match. One more for the quarter of a century. An absolute pleasure as always to travel around the world enjoying the delights on offer. Thanks again for joining me, and until the next footy trip, take it easy.